You know, every single click, every message you send, every time you buy something online, it's all happening in this massive digital world. And that world, it needs protection. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify that protection, cybersecurity. Now, I know it sounds super complex, right? But trust me, by the end of this, you're going to have a really clear picture of the digital battlefield, the weapons used, and the people who guard our online lives. All right, so let's dive right in. First up, our digital life at risk. You might be asking, why should I even care about this? Well, it's because just about everything we do, from managing our money to chatting with our friends, it all lives online now. And that digital world, believe it or not, has dangers lurking around, just like the real one. I mean, really stop and think about it for a second. How much of your life is actually online? Every single conversation, every bank transfer, all your work stuff, your private photos, all of it. It's just data now. And the big question is, how much of that data, how much of your life, is sitting on some server somewhere that you have absolutely no control over? And let me tell you, that data is basically a digital treasure chest. It's got everything: your personal data, all your financial info, your very identity, and if you're a business, well, it's your entire operation. And just like any treasure chest, you can bet there are people out there trying to get their hands on it. Okay, so how do we protect that treasure chest? Well, that's where cybersecurity comes in. It's the shield, the armor. It's the whole practice of protecting our computers, our networks, our apps, and all that precious data from anyone who shouldn't have access to it, from attacks and from damage.
Now, the shield isn't just one single thing. It's way more like a fortress, A fortress built on several key pillars of protection, and each one is designed to defend a very specific part of our digital world.
So let's break down the layers of this fortress. First, you've got network security. Think of this as the main gatekeeper, using firewalls and VPNs to control who gets in and out. Then there's application security, which is all about making sure the apps you use don't have security holes. Endpoint security, that's the guard standing watch over your actual devices, like your laptop and your phone, using antivirus software. Of course, there's cloud and data security, which uses powerful tools like encryption to scramble your data so no one can read it. And finally, you have incident response. This is your emergency crew, the team with the plan for what to do when something does go wrong. Every single one of these layers is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so we've built this amazing fortress, right? But with any fortress, there are always going to be attackers trying to get in. And that's exactly why we need all those pillars of protection, because there are constant, real threats right at the gate.
And listen, this isn't some hypothetical scenario from a movie. The attackers are real. We're talking about everything from huge, organized criminal groups to individual hackers and even armies of automated bots, all of them just constantly scanning the internet, looking for one single weak spot they can break through.
So what does their playbook look like? Well, first there's malware. You can think of this like a digital disease. Things like viruses, or even worse, ransomware, that grabs all your files and holds them hostage until you pay up. Then you've got phishing attacks. You've probably seen these. They're those tricky emails that look legit but are really just trying to steal your passwords. DDoS attacks are like a digital traffic jam, flooding a website with so much junk that it just crashes. And you can't forget about insider threats. Sometimes the danger's already inside the walls.
Yeah, it's a pretty daunting list of threats, for sure. So the big question is, with all of that coming at us, how in the world do we fight back?
Well, we fight back with a pretty awesome cybersecurity toolkit. These are specialized tools that the pros use, not just to build defenses, but to actively go on the hunt for weaknesses, keep an eye out for threats, and break down attacks in real time.
See, that's the thing about modern cybersecurity. It's not about just sitting back and waiting to get hit. It's about being proactive, about going on the hunt. The defenders use this toolkit to find and patch up the cracks in the fortress wall before the bad guys even realize they exist.
So let's peek inside this toolkit. For example, you've got something called Wireshark. It's basically a detective for your network, letting you see all the data traffic flying back and forth. Then there's Nessus, which is like a security guard that goes around checking for any unlocked digital doors or windows. Burp Suite is all about stress testing web applications to find their weak spots. And then there's Metasploit, which is really cool. It actually lets the good guys simulate attacks themselves, so they can find those flaws and fix them before a real criminal can.
But of course, these incredible tools are only as good as the people who wield them. So let's talk about the real heroes on the front lines, the guardians of the digital world.
First up, you've got the SOC Analyst. SOC stands for Security Operations Center.
These are the vigilant sentinels. Seriously, picture a room full of screens, and these folks are watching them 24/7 for any sign of trouble. They are the absolute first line of defense.
Then you have one of the coolest jobs in tech, the penetration tester, or as you might know them, an ethical hacker. The best way to think of them is as a hired burglar. A company literally pays them to try and break into their own systems. And you might ask, why would they do that? Well, it's so they can find all the security holes and patch them up before a real attacker finds them first. Pretty smart, right?
But what happens when an attack actually gets through? That's when you call in the incident responder. These are the emergency services of the cyber world, the digital fire department. When that alarm bell rings, they're the ones who rush in to contain the damage, kick the intruders out, and work like crazy to get everything back to normal.
So we've looked at the threats, we've seen the tools, and we've met the professionals who stand guard over our digital lives, which really just leaves us with one final big question to think about. In a world that's this connected, is cybersecurity really just a job for the experts, or is it everyone's responsibility? Because at the end of the day, the strongest defense really does start with each and every one of us being just a little more careful, a little more aware. Thanks so much for tuning in.